Hello again, everybody. In this video, I'm going to go over how I planned out my first session of Curse of Strahd, how I planned things out, how things went, my ideas and intent behind them, and as well talk about some mistakes that I made and how I intend to fix them in the future. So hopefully through this you can kind of get an idea of how the campaign kind of goes, and some other ideas that you might add into your own to help spice it up and to make it more intriguing and valuable. So without further ado, I will start it up. So one of the things I wanted to do is add a bit of sort of meta game knowledge in terms of the lore of the adventure itself. There is a whole heck of a lot out there that is available that's either older content that was put out way back in the past, or things that don't really come up during the adventure but are still kind of interesting to know. And I just wanted to kind of share that with the players so that they can kind of be invested as players in the setting, as well as kind of give their characters some understanding of the world around them without giving them too much, giving too much away, because I wanted it to be a mystery of discovery as they learn things about the setting and the region of Barovia. And so what I did is I took little bits and pieces of that lore from the past and put it into the form of short 3 to 5 sentence paragraphs as if they were being written by a famous monster hunter who is in the game itself. And his name is Rudolf von Richten. In the adventure, you might encounter him in one of the towns as Rictavio. And so what I did is I have him writing out these journal entries as sort of informational things and then reading them out loud to the players before the session. And what I did as well with those is I wanted to kind of have them be themed around the session, what's going to be coming in it, or what was experienced just recently, to kind of tie things together neatly and nicely so that this wouldn't have to be expository in the adventure itself. It would just be something that the players would know, and they might eventually learn as characters. So I read out that little blurb that he had. In this one, he talked about the mists of Barovia and sort of things like that. And that way, it would kind of draw the players in. It would provide some setting and some background, and also give them some information that is important, but not completely game-changing. I was inspired to do this format of introducing the session with this sort of world building through Brandon Sanderson novels. He tends to do that at the beginning of his chapters, has a little section that would kind of talk about things that are going on, or provide just some setting and background information that would either be useful later or would just be to provide some information. And that's kind of why I like doing that, and I found it really valuable to kind of get people into the game and get myself into the session itself. The next thing I wanted to do was to continue to provide character building questions for each player and their player characters in the form of direct questions to the player characters in order to promote role-playing and to promote character building as well. These questions, I found them from another YouTuber named Ginny D. She's pretty popular, does a lot of cosplay stuff, but she had these good character building questions from a video that she put up recently. So I took those and I copied them out. I used some of them because some of them are not quite applicable, but there's about 50 there that are great to get started. And then from there, I've kind of adapted them, picked and choose the ones that I wanted to. And I'm trying not to have any repeats, so I highlight them as I go. So if you're interested in checking those out, I will link them in the description along with her video. And there might be a link that'll pop up on the screen now as well. And so through those, I've been able to promote character building, and it also provides me with some information that they might not openly share, and then that way I can lock down that information for using later. It also helps to promote party relationships so that they can kind of connect with one another as well. And I'm hoping sooner or later that it'll start to provide conversation pieces for them to start talking amongst themselves as well. Following that, I began with a recap of what happened last session to get them back in the mood and get their characters back in the scene. this whole sequence I've trimmed down over the course of the last few sessions, or I space them out throughout the beginning of the session. But I always begin with the recap as best as I can to set the mood, get people back into it, and to remind people of what was happening last time in case they forgot. This recap also begins with the scene setting and reminding them of what happened, and then it ends very specifically where I describe the immediate scene and the immediate actions to lead into them acting. I've seen this done a lot by Matt Mercer in his D&D campaigns, where he will recap and then say, what do you do right at the end, as to lead them into providing it back to them, provide the power back to the players for them to act and react to the situation. Next began the actual session where the players started to actually play. And what ended up happening was that they exited the woods with the Vistani caravan, and they saw the village of Kresk and the Vistani camp across from it. And so initially in the campaign, you actually are supposed to start way off on the east side of the map, near the village of Barovia and the castle itself. But I saw a video from XP to level 3 where he suggested starting at Kresk. And this has been very interesting for me. I'm not used to this location, and my players in the first time hardly explored this area over here at all. So it's been interesting to have this different perspective. And so I was kind of hoping, I wasn't sure what they were going to do exactly, and when I plan, I never really plan on trying to anticipate what they're going to do. I usually have my potential points set out, and so I expected them to either continue down the road, go to the camp, or go to the village. Other than that, there wasn't really a whole lot for them to do, and so that way I could kind of limit what I needed to get ready for when the actual session happened. So they ended up going to the Vistani camp, and there they visited Madame Eva because it was suggested by another NPC to go visit her to learn more of the land and about their quest, and she's sort of a fortune teller individual. With the Madame Eva encounter / scene, there is a lot of different things you can do with it. Generally, as it's written in the adventure, she is used as sort of a guide. She gives the players a tarot card reading of each key item that they will need on their quest, an ally they can find that will help them, and where Strahd will be located when they arrive at the castle for the final encounter. However, there's a lot more you can do with her, and this has been detailed quite heavily on other posts, but in my own game, I used her as an individual guide as well as a collective guide, and I gave each character their own fortune telling, effectively. This campaign features a lot of good fighting against evil and a lot of evil corrupting the light. And so I took that kind of theme in mind and thought about each of the characters individually and sort of anticipated what I might see them doing based on what they have done in the past as the players have decided for their characters. So for example, Dominic, I can see you standing beside a great sarcophagus with darkness behind your eyes. Power seeks to sink its claws into you, yet you hesitate. You have given up much for your own power. How much are you willing to give up to do what needs to be done? So that was just one example of what I might see happening. As for the card reading itself, as it's written in the adventure, you are supposed to randomly draw from the deck and do like a card spread on the table, and that will determine where the key artifacts are in the adventure, as well as the ally and Strahd's location. However, this can be problematic in that some of them might randomly give you the artifact is in this tent, and then automatically the party gets one of the most important items in the adventure itself right off the bat, which can be kind of awkward. Some people suggest planning it out yourself. You can fake it, sort of. Some people suggest making a group of stacks, like options of where they will be based on their difficulty and their power level, sort of thing. I just completely eschewed all of that, and I decided to have it just be pre-planned, but in areas that I think they would be keen on visiting and that would be close to their characters' motivations and backstory. So I ended up deciding that the Tome of Strahd, which is kind of like a lore book, would be located nearby and early on so that they can begin to learn about his story and history and have sort of an ongoing relic to kind of attach themselves to. I decided to put the symbol of Ravenkind, which is a necklace of protection, in another area where they would probably eventually go that was actually directly tied to another character's backstory. And then I put the Sun Sword in the Amber Temple, which is like a higher level area that is kind of intended to go to near the end of the campaign because it's such a powerful item and because it's such a momentous area as well. I wanted it to be there. As for the ally, I saw in a Reddit post that it suggested that you select an ally that complements the party and isn't completely random. Some of them are kind of useless as well, so keep that in mind when you are drawing them or choosing them. So for the ally, I figured it would be somebody that is not necessarily combat focused because they do already have a lot of combat in the party. So I decided to be a more of supportive individual who could provide them with information, funds, knowledge, things like that. And I decided on the nobleman in Vallaki, I think it was. I can't remember exactly who. As for the location of Strahd, that one was randomly drawn because it's not super important. It's just kind of where you start the fight, and then things kind of go from there as you move about the castle. As far as my memory serves me, that was about the extent of the first session. They kind of decided that they wanted to visit the village to learn some more information about where they were and what was going on. However, as it's written in the adventure, and that's kind of how I ran it too, you need to provide some sort of service to enter the village because they are super duper suspicious of any newcomers that come in because they all expect them to be assassins or spies for Strahd. They're very, very paranoid in that village. And so that sent them on another quest to go to the Wizards of Wines, which is a whole other ballgame, and I will elaborate that more in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed this campaign diary. This was for the first session where the players and characters arrived in Barovia and they received their card reading from Madame Eva, as well as some other things that I like to do at the beginning of sessions. So I hope this helps. Look out for the next session, which will be session 2, where the players went to the Wizard of Wines, and I made some more mistakes there. No one's perfect. So if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, leave a comment if you have any questions, suggestions, or ideas, and have a great day.